I had to share this story with you today because it was so poignant about one of the most important things to understand about a healthy diet is that a healthy diet should relieve stress from mind, body, and lifestyle, not cause it. But a lot of times in our fitness culture, we associate stress with productivity. That if we're struggling more and really just working ourselves into the ground with something, or just making ourselves work hard, then that means that we're getting somewhere. But when it comes to diet, the opposite is true. You want as little stress on mind, body, and lifestyle as possible. So wanted to share this idea from editor-in-chief Adam over at the Arnold Schwarzenegger's newsletter, which I highly recommend, where he's basically asking, is your diet causing you too much stress? And this story is just, it's just chef's kiss right there, where the title of the story is Food Isn't Just Food. So here we go. It basically says, the argument started over breakfast, or rather the absence of it. My son, Adam's son, sat at the table, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the empty plate in front of him like it had betrayed him. I had offered eggs. He wanted a donut. And instead of the sound of a satisfied boy, there was just quiet tension crackling open by hunger and morning fatigue. He told me he didn't know what he wanted to eat. I told him if he doesn't know then I don't know either. He told me I always say that. So he sat. I hugged him. I told him I wanted him to enjoy his breakfast. Okay. So there might have been a moment where I also thought of saying, do you know how lucky you are to even have food in the fridge and so on? But I didn't, because I remember being 6 years old and hearing something similar. I personally too was a very picky eater at that age. It didn't make me grateful, it just made me feel guilty. The guilt seems benign in the moment. So instead, I sat down next to him. We stared at the plate together. He asked me if I didn't give him donuts because they are, quote, bad for him. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't just about breakfast. The next section here is so true. It's like what no one wants to admit about eating and diet. There's a strange intimacy to food. It carries the weight of culture, comfort, and memory. And for many of us, it also carries a sense of shame. The skipped meals, the binges, the obsession with macros, or the guilt of emotional eating. A plate is never just a plate. It's a mirror. Eggs are healthier than a donut, but donuts are not the worst thing in the world. We definitely eat them occasionally at my home, and yet it's almost too easy and too common for narratives designed to lead to healthier behaviors to backfire completely, something I personally know inherently as well. We're told eating is simple. Just fuel the machine. Admittedly, I used this language long ago, and I wish I didn't. And I, too, will echo that. Again, this is Adam talking here. Because we are not machines. We are people, flawed, brilliant, anxious, evolving, trying to do the best we can, and bodies we don't always understand. Only a few diet books stress the one thing we need to feel in your stomach. And this is the most important thing. Food is not just physiological. It's emotional. And until you make peace with that, no plan will ever fully work. For years, I tried to out-discipline my appetite. I thought if I could, quote, get it right, hit the right macros, time the meals, follow the rules, I'd finally feel free. But the freedom cannot come from control. It stemmed from compassion, understanding, and reevaluating my perspective on perfection, restriction, and how I utilize nutrition to support my goals. This is amazing. I could have been writing this myself. He's echoing exactly how I felt all these years. It came from the moment I stopped seeing meals as moral choices, started asking, am I caring for myself or punishing myself with this decision? It came when I realized that teaching my son how to eat isn't just about carbs or calories. It's about helping him to trust his body and helping him listen before he obeys, helping him respect himself without creating unrealistic expectations that would break anyone if enforced consistently enough. It's about knowing what's good for your body and also being mindful about how some battles can give people the wrong idea that lasts much longer than one meal. The deal with my son, there's always a time for donuts, but we don't eat donuts all the time. Instead of good and bad foods, it's more about the foods we often eat and the foods we eat less often. And that even when we don't eat food, that's not because of shame and guilt, but more about serving our body. He ate the eggs, and a few days later, we both enjoyed donuts. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What if your next step towards better health wasn't another plan to follow, but an old belief to let go of? Maybe the food isn't the problem. Maybe the story you tell yourself about what it means to, quote, eat right is the weight you need to lose. Start by noticing the hunger, the judgment, the habit, the history, and then sit down next to it. You don't need to fix everything at once. Just don't look away. Again, that's from Adam Bornstein on the email that I get on a daily basis. Highly recommend that. But the bottom line is that food is supposed to support our behaviors, our lifestyle, and our healthy habits. And the big myth and misconception is that we can have full control over our ability to do that if we can just control our diet. And of course, diet is a very important component to that, but it's by no means the entire picture. And moreover, we get lost in the idea of thinking that controlling diet means controlling one narrow influential or nutritional influence like sugar, carbs, fat, calories, and stuff, when in reality it's much more broad, more nuanced than that. But when we start to look at food as something we have to fight and struggle with, then we're already going down a dark path. And more importantly, we often turn a blind eye to the fact that, yes, food is emotional. We often think of emotional eating as a bad thing, but the fact is there's no such thing as non-emotional eating. All meals, all foods are emotional eating all the time. It's just a question of, are we doing it in a positive framework of emotional eating, or are we going after a negative one? So in that regard, I would convey the idea that someone who is trying to, quote, eat right and they're struggling to follow a diet is fundamentally in the same orientation to food as someone who downs an entire bag of chocolate because they're stressed at work. It's the same thing. We have a negative emotional association with food, which produces stress on mind, body, and lifestyle, even though we're trying to do it in different directions. So eat to satisfy, use food for healthy benefits in all aspects: physiological health, mental health, emotional health, even social health. And that way we can ensure we're doing things from a dietary perspective for healthy reasons, which is how we, quote, eat well rather than just eating right. Food for thought. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Be fit, live free.